That is something that I personally feel like that attracts me towards sports physiotherapy because it's just changing every day. It's like an art that you sort of introduce in the science.
So Ashwini, tell me, how did you develop an interest in sports physiotherapy? And today, where do you look at yourself in the bigger scheme of things when it comes to women's cricket?
So when you take the field of physiotherapy, right, it's like a problem solving. It's like something that you try to look for solution, and it's so dynamic that it changes every day. That is something that I personally feel like that attracts me towards sports physiotherapy because it's just changing every day. It's like an art that you sort of introduce in the science part of it. So that's what at Invictus what we're trying to do is bring that art. It's not just it's not just training or it's not just rehab. We're trying to bring that art and science into physiotherapy and strength and conditioning for India.
So what areas and aspects of a cricketer do you actually work on here at Invictus?
So we have a whole team of physios, strength and conditioning coaches, exercise physiologists. So the minute the athlete enters, we have like a whole bunch of sports, right? Not just cricket. So the minute an athlete enters, we do an assessment to figure out like what's wrong with them, if they have an injury, what's their training like, and where they are right now. So it's basically like we analyze the whole body in terms of their injury, strength, fitness level, and we make a program. It's basically a lot of like science that goes into a lot of data that is collected to see their numbers, to see how high they're jumping, how fast they're running. So that's what we collate the data and we start training them according to the analysis. And
so it's like a chart that you do.
Yeah. It's like a periodic thing. We have like a whole data science team that's dedicated just to that. Every morning they have to collect the information, how good they're feeling, how they've slept, what they're eating. We have a nutritionist, we have a psychologist. So the whole information is gone into a dashboard, and at the end of the day the data science team sort of analyzes the whole thing and like gives you a report. It can be an end of the day report or it can be in tournament report. So that's what we use the information and we start the rehab or the training.
Now, I have a doubt. I mean, how different is it to train men and women?
It's actually usually there are different points, right? Like how women approach a problem and how men approach a problem. But personally, I feel when it comes to a sport, you have to be very resilient. So as an individual, it's not really about like if I'm training a male or a female, it's more about their personalities. It's like challenging, difficult, like you have to find out what really like pushes them, what really triggers them sometimes, because you have to really get that training into the picture. So it's different things actually. Like I don't think it's more of like difference between the genders of training. It's really the personality of the individual that sort of like drives us to work and find out what really like works for them.
And also coming to the fact that fitness today is applicable so much to women athletes as well.
Correct.
I mean, we see them focusing on their fitness way so much.
Yes.
And you have internationally acclaimed players who come here and train with you.
Correct.
You have budding players.
Yes.
I mean, what is the difference in the approach like?
So for the athletes who've seen it all, right, like who played at all levels, the most important thing that we get to learn from them is the feedback that we get, right? Because they know, they've seen everything, they've worked with so many people, they know their body, they know what works for them. So as a professional, as a physio, the feedback that they give in terms of, okay, this is working for me, okay, this might work for me, this I've tried before, it does not work for me. That is something that's so important for us to go back and change how we are going to look at it, right? Because we go into thinking like, okay, this is the thought process that we're going to use for the athlete, but when they give us the feedback, then we're like, okay, this might not work. So how to make it, how can we solve this problem in a different way? So that is something that we really learn from them every day, because at the end of the day, they are something, it's like a war zone, right?
Yeah.
They are doing the fighting and they are there, so they can give us like so much more information in terms of technique, because they're the ones who are actually training and doing all the gameplay. When I work with the newer, younger athletes, it's so much fun because they're like a clean slate. You can mold them in any way you want, and you can create so much awareness right from a young age, right? Because a lot of time when the athlete is already at a certain level, it's very difficult to make certain changes in terms of like their fitness or in terms of their behavior. Younger players, you can just like you can plan so much, and you can make them, educate them how to take care of themselves. So that is something that's definitely so much fun to work with.
Like a Veda Krishnamurthy, who's an experienced Indian cricketer, and you have a budding Shreyanka Patil from Karnataka. So the difference, like you said, is of course experience and freshness. So what is the message that you would like to give to these budding young athletes, especially women who want to work on their fitness and probably give that extra mile on field?
Correct. No, so nowadays, taking care of your health, being fit is one of the most important thing right now in sport. You cannot not be fit in today's day. Not just for like sports, it's just for your health also, to improve the longevity of the athlete, right? If you're going to play for 5 years and you're going to play for 10 years, but in a good form, that is something the fitness element takes into account of making sure everything is running. Like your body is at the end of the day like a machine, right? Everything has to run properly, so the fitness element has to be there.
But what about mental fitness? I mean, here at Invictus, you take care of sports psychology as well, especially for athletes who are making a recovery after injury.
Correct.
What is the process of mental healing like?
Correct. So, the most sad part about injury is sometimes we have to tell that athlete not to play for probably 4 weeks or 6 weeks, depending on the extent of the injury. So that's the most toughest part, because their whole life is revolving around training and playing. So they just eat, sleep, train and compete. That's the only thing that they do. So making sure that they are okay with that, and making sure that you have a plan for them. It's basically like a reverse injury, right? So if someone is injured, we see, okay, from this date, when is your next competition? Is it realistic for you to participate in that, or is it something that we need to focus on next competition? So we plan the schedule. We make sure that the psychologist is involved to help them deal with certain stresses, especially people who are playing at a much higher level. It's not just about training for them. For them, it's so much attention is there on them, so much money is involved. They're dealing with different fans if they're not performing well. So that is something the psychology team definitely helps them to cope up with different strategies of how to focus and not make sure that they're not really getting stuck up in that loop.
Yeah, so cricket is not just a physical game, there's a lot of mental game involved as well, is what Ashwini has to say. Okay, Ashwini, I'm not going to take too much of your time. I just have this last question for you. Karnataka is a hub for cricket altogether, and we have women cricketers who are making all of us proud. So, where do you see Invictus in this journey? I mean, how do you see yourself grooming these women for their future?
So at Invictus's ecosystem, our main goal is athlete education and awareness, right? So the minute they step in, whether it's a young athlete or a experienced athlete, our main goal is to make sure that they know what to do during the training. Yeah, that is the one of the most important thing I feel in India is missing, is they're not aware of what to do with their body in terms of training if they get injured. So a lot of time when we take in athletes, our main focus is how to make sure that they know what to do. We give them a lot of sometimes study material also, go back, read, and this is something that we have to this is what our plan is. This is how we're going to work on different body systems, different the information that we've got from the data. So that is what something we are trying to approach. So a lot of people actually come from all over the India and train here, Ashwini, from the one who's playing in Delhi Capitals right now. We have Veda coming in and training here. So they are actually we get to learn so much from them, and we get to use that feedback and that information to help us train better programs, better rehab programs for the newer players.
Thank you so much for your time, Ashwini, and no wonder they say girl power is indeed strong.